been announced that inflation fell by more than expected in March. It's down to 2.6% from 2.8% the previous month. But, of course, with April's energy bills increase and the National Insurance Employers hike and Trump's tariffs to kick in, the fall may, of course, be only temporary. Despite this, one man remains hopeful.
Yes, it's John Caudwell. He became one of Britain's richest men after ditching his car dealership for mobile phone sales back in the late 80s. Now, the former Phones for You boss, who's worth £1.5 billion, says Trump's tariffs could be an opportunity. He joins us now. A very good morning to you. Great to have you with us this morning. I mean, Trump's tariffs have caused global turmoil, haven't they? It's fair to say at the moment. Why do you think that actually it should be seen as an opportunity?
Oh, you know, I think that's a bit of a misstatement because, yes, I've said there's opportunities within it compared relative to the rest of the world, but let's be realistic about this. Trump's tariffs and a lot of other things that he's doing are an absolute wrecking ball. They're bouncing around the planet from one soft target to another, occasionally hitting a hard target, and when they hit the hard target, they're being retracted. So, no, I think, you know, it's a relative statement that if everybody else gets 20 or 30% tariffs and we only get 10%, there is an element of relative opportunity there.
OK, fair enough. So to see some of the positive out of it, I guess, you know, if you had your former hat on, the Phones for You, it would be one of the parts of industry, isn't it, you'd be most worried about with the tariffs on phone components, how that's going to affect consumers. There are certain areas where there's going to be a really big impact, aren't there?
No, there's going to be massive impact everywhere. You know, the world is moving towards a recession in most countries, and it's going to be disastrous for all economies, but even worse for the Americans, because I believe the animosity that Trump is creating is going to last for many, many years and maybe decades. And the only positive side I can see out of any of this, really, is around $3 trillion a year coming into the exchequer of the US. But countering that, you've got all the damage to GDP growth in the US and around the world. And also you've got the inflationary context of this that will happen as a result of the tariffs. So the American people are probably going to end up being worse off, maybe short, medium and long term.
Making predictions about what Donald Trump's going to do next is, I think most people now agree, a mug's game. You just don't know. He's so unpredictable. But nevertheless,
you would never make any prediction.
I wouldn't mind asking you just to look into your crystal ball, if you wouldn't mind just taking a punt for us. Do you think that because Trump had, if you like, a Liz Truss moment, in that he got his fingers badly burned by the bonds market and he stepped back, as you say, do you think that was a terminal lesson for him and he won't play silly so-and-sos like this again on this particular issue?
I don't think he learns any lessons. I mean, let's face it, he bankrupted six businesses. Nearly every other business he ever had, he failed. I don't see that he learns lessons, really. And I think his whole strategy is bullying, driven out of ego and narcissism. So I'm not so sure that he will learn any lessons, but certainly the Chinese debacle and what happened there and the potential of them dumping $800 billion worth of bonds must be extremely worrying to him. But it should have been worrying to him before he introduced the ridiculously high tariffs. You know, it's interesting because a lot of what Trump does, there is a slight element of logic, common sense and commercialism in. And, you know, I would do some of the things that he does, but to a very, very moderate extent, very selectively and very targetedly. To go out like a wrecking ball, bouncing from one disaster to another, is not very sensible commercialism. So I have a very clear view that we are in for a rough ride around the world. We already are, and there's already damage being done, and supply chains are being broken and changed. And I really do think that this is going to be to the US's deficit in the long term.
Do you think that the smallish but unexpected drop in inflation that we've just reported, it's down 0.2% to 2.6%, do you think that is going to be temporary and that because of the way Trump is behaving and because of all the other factors we've been talking about, do you think it'll go up again?
Well, there is an inflationary trend, within all the actions that Trump is taking. So there is definitely a potential for inflation to bounce back up a little bit. But there's a lot of deflationary aspects to the economy as well. So I think on balance, that's a difficult one to call. But I would probably not expect it to go much above 3% if at all. And let's face it, 3% compared to where we've been is pretty good. 3% sustainable. And we mustn't lose sight of the fact that some degree of inflation is quite good, because as long as it doesn't hit GDP growth, it reduces debt to GDP as a ratio and shrinks our debt down a little bit. So, you know, I certainly wouldn't want to see more than 3%, but if it bounced back 1 or 2 points, it's not too bad.
John, can I ask you, you were a big Conservative donor, you switched to Labour. How do you think they're doing? I mean, obviously, you know, when we look at some changes that are coming in, the national insurance contributions, for example, and the impact that's going to have, what's your assessment of things at the moment?
Well, I think they're doing a lot that's good, like on the deregulation of planning and so on, and trying to attract businesses into the UK on that basis. But the problem is, with all the measures that they put in, they don't look very business friendly. Certainly, a lot of wealthy people are leaving the UK for Dubai, Milan, and Monaco, and that's really rather sad. But the more important point is, do we look business friendly? Do we look as though we're trying to win business? And with a lot of measures that they're putting in, I don't believe that's the case. And there were much easier ways of taxing the economy to raise the money that they needed to raise, rather than some of these anti-business measures that everybody feels and sees. So I don't think they're being very smart, to be honest. But I think given the alternative economy, given the alternative politicians that we had, I think they were the best choice of a bad lot. Okay. And I probably always feel that about politicians, because they never feel to me as though they're being smart enough, clever enough and commercial enough. So
well, maybe you should go into politics then, John.
But they need to do a lot better.
I think we're all in that.
Maybe that's the answer. You should go into politics instead.
Can I just finish with it's a personal question, but it's the kind of question that I'd put to you if I found myself next to you on a plane or a train. When you're worth £1.5 billion, how does that change a person? How does it change someone to reach that level of extraordinary wealth, do you think?
Well, I think that's different for every person. I mean, it took me really the best part of 50 years to make that sort of money. It was an evolution, not a revolution. And when I sold the business, decided to give 70% of the money away to charity during or after my lifetime, joined the Giving Pledge. In some ways, I live a very privileged and luxurious life. In other ways, I'm quite frugal, as people on EasyJet will tell you when they say, oh, I never thought I'd see you on EasyJet, and I'm there all the time, taking a £50 or £100 flight. So, you know, I'm a bit of a dichotomy, really, of wealth and frugalism. So, you know, I'm a mixed bag, but I've still got my feet very much on the ground. And my big interest is helping make the world a better place in whatever way I can.
Well, good for you, and also for putting your money where your mouth is with that Giving Pledge, which, you know, is a really admirable thing, actually, to say that you give away 70% of your wealth. Well done to you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning and for your take on things. We appreciate it.